Hi, what's up, people of design? Welcome once again on my channel. This is Ibrahim Ayomide from Green Illustration Studio. Once again, I would like to, due to popular demand, people have been requesting that I create a video around isometric design using AutoCAD. I've done that several times with my classes, but I've not really had any time to put that on my channel. So very quickly today, I'll be taking you through how we can get started creating isometric drawing in AutoCAD. The first thing first, what I would like to make you understand is isometric drawing is not a 3D object. Isometric designs are usually known. I usually call them 3D, what's it called? What's the English word? What do I used to call it? 3D, okay, yeah. I call isometric designs 3D illusions, right? These are 3D illusions that they look like 3D, but they don't act like 3D, right? They are not 3D object at its core, but they are 3D illusion. They represent a form of 3D. They give you an idea into how a 3D object will look. I have on my other slide here, I kind of have like two screens right here on my screen. I'll bring out an example of what I'm talking about directly to our screen. So let me drag it into my screen. Now you can see that, look at an isometric view for design. This is a view, right? This is a 2D shape. It has a top view. That means placing an object right in front of you and viewing from the top. It has a view. That's the way it looks from the top. Also, it has the way it looks from the front side when you are looking from the front side, plain front side. And then we have something from the right side as well. And this is what isometric design is all about. When you look at this design, you can't call this a 3D object. This is a 3D illusion. Because when you call something a 3D object, when you try to rotate, you can orbit around that object and still see all the object glory in its orientation. You understand? You can see from the top view, from the side view, and you feel like you have something of substance. In this section, I'll be showing you both ways. We'll be working on isometric design, and again, maybe I'll jump into 3D object. So I'll go ahead to my drawing. Right here, I can click on new, but just for you to see what template I'm trying to work with, I'll click on AutoCAD template here, and I'll click on open. Right? When I open my template, it opens my AutoCAD interface, which we are all familiar with, guys. But this is not what we are familiar. I'm talking about the interface. This is a 3D workspace. How do I change that? There's a radio icon below here, like a settings icon. I need to go back to my drafting and annotation. When I go back to drafting and annotation, you see the familiar window that we are all familiar with, talking about 3D drafting and 2D design basically. So because this ISO plane that you are talking about, it is not a 3D design. It is a 2D isometric view. That's what you're trying to work with, and most of the time you always get this, guys. You always get this in your design. You have been requested to recreate exactly what you have here in a model. So how do you go ahead to do that? That's what I'm about to show you. So I'll put this on my second screen. You won't be able to see, but I'll be transitioning back and forth just to show you so that you have an idea of what we are trying to create. So you have seen the design. Let's get started with the design. Right now, there is I'll go ahead to click on zoom enter, Z enter, E enter, because I believe we are all familiar with what's up here. Z enter, E enter is Z is for zoom, while E is for zoom extend. The same thing you can access from here. When I go to Z zoom extend, that's exactly what I've done. So I'll go ahead. The first thing I want to do is go to my line command. For example, for you to work on iso plane, while I have my command on, you need to have just two aspect of your design on directly on your status bar. On your status bar, you know what our status bar is. Our status bar contains tools that helps us to draw to precision, which is what we do whenever we try to create a design. We are drawing to a particular spec, size, or resolution. A size, we understand, we have a spec we are designing for. So these are the tools that are on these tools. Using the tools that are contained in this status bar, this section here, there are tools that helps us to draw to precision. So I'll go to ISO draft, which is what we are looking for. Can you see ISO draft here? I'll click on it. Okay, let me click on escape. Let me terminate my command, and I'll go back to ISO draft on it. When I click on ISO draft, notice something that happened. My grid system. We are all familiar with the grid system back in the 2D, our normal graph paper, right? We have the X and Y axis. You are familiar with that, right? So we are all familiar with this whole stuff. I'll right click on this guy, go to this view settings, I'll go to uncheck so that it stays at the corner, right? Now I have this here. We are familiar with the yellow with the green line that shows your y-axis, and the x line, the x colored line that shows your what x-axis, basically the negative x and the what negative y. We're all familiar with this. That's not what I'm about to, that's not what I'm here to talk to you about. What I'm talking to you about is the ISO draft. I'll click on ISO draft. Notice something on that graph paper. It changes. Now it is like in a perspective, right? So how do I know that? It's because when I click on this drop down here, you can see that I have a left view. If I go ahead to check again, I have a top view, and I have again to show what I have also on that side to show what my right view. Are you guys with me? So all these views are the kind of view, all these views are the views required for you to create an isometric drawing, right? Also, one thing we try to also have checked on our line. For example, I'll start a line command. Now while I have the command on, while I do that, notice something. My line is just creating like a normal polar object, right? There's nothing that is really snapping to. Most of the time, whenever we are creating an isometric drawing, we try to be on what? Auto mode. Auto mode restricts you to create a perfectly horizontal or perfectly perfectly horizontal or perfectly vertical line. And because we are restricted to this axis given to us by isoplane, that's why auto mode is the best. It's usually what we use on whenever we are on isoplane mode. Now to switch from either of these, you can start clicking on this drop down and clicking on top, or you start clicking on this drop down and clicking on right, or you start clicking on this drop down to click on left again. You understand? Whichever way, but there's a shortcut that helps us to do that very easily. When I click on tab, when I click on F5 on my keyboard, it basically switches all these different sides for me. Right, now let me show you an idea of what this means. Look at the top view. I'll create a design on the top. Can you see this top design now that I'm currently creating? This is the top view. When I click on F5, it switches to what? Right. And now if I start creating my designs again, you see that I'm currently working on the right view. Can you see that I'm currently working on the right view? Right, I'll go ahead and click on F5 one more time, and then you can see that I'll start designing on the left view. This can be very tricky sometimes, but you can see the perspective of what I'm trying to create has changed basically. So this aspect showing the top section, this aspect showing the right view, this aspect showing the left view, this is what we use to create our design. So I'll be using this as a guide one more time, guys. I'll be recreating exactly what we have here. And how do we interpret this, guys? Look at this from the front view. This is this side you are looking at. The side of this design is the front view. The front view is usually the same thing as the back view, right? Front, back view. We have the top, which is also the same as which can also is also the one that reflects at the bottom part. Are you guys with me? So also reflect at the bottom part of our design. And then we have the right view. And this view is what you are seeing here from this side of the design, viewing this design from this side. That's right view, or from this side, right? And then we have the top view directly up top here, right? How do we interpret this? We all know that the height of this design from here is 2, from this bottom part to this end is 2. Now we know that from this point to this point is 1.5, which is exactly what we have here, 1.5, right? We have the whole dimension from the top, which is 3.0, which is everything from here up to this point is known as 3.0. Do you get the gist? Now how do we recreate this, guys? So I'll go ahead to minimize. I'll go ahead to my line command or my polyline command, anyone works. So I'll start my line, I'll start my design command. Because of what I'm trying to recreate, let me put my design back to that same position on that other screen that I mentioned. So just try to follow and just go along with me here, guys. Alright, so I'll be starting from the very bottom part. I'll be starting from that side view. I'm talking about the front view now. So I'll pick my design up. I'll pick my line command up. I'll pick it up from here. And then I'll go. Do you know that I'm currently on right? If you want to confirm if you're on right, if I'm currently on left view, right? I'll go ahead to my left view. On my left view, I'll start my design. I'll go at a distance of. Some people do not like to have this grid, but it does not really matter. I can turn off my grid. I'll turn on my grid if I want it. You understand? I'll turn mine off and I'll go on a straight line. I'll go at a distance of. Let's use the distance of 2, which is what we have on the design. Now, when I enter 2, you can see where the line has broken from. Now I need to go to the to this side at the distance of what? Do you remember that number? 1.5, correct? So I'll go at a distance of 1.5. You are not seeing that on my crosshair because I'm entering it on this command line. Again, if you want to see it on your command line, if you want to see it directly on your crosshair, you need to have a command. Need to have something on known as dynamic input. Dynamic input is just directly beside my auto mode. When I click on my auto mode, you'll see something that will follow my mouse around. Now I'll go ahead to enter. Still on that same line, I have my 1.5 drawn. Have you? So I'll go ahead to escape that same command. I'll right click again, start my line. I'll repeat my line command again, escape. Repeat my line command again. I'll start from this end this time, guys. I'll go at the distance of, now it is showing that dimension here. It was showing directly on my command line before, but because I wanted to bring it to your view so you can see it. So I'll go again at on that same straight line. I'll go at the distance of what's the overall distance that we have that I showed you like 3, right? And I click on 3, and then I'm going back up. That small distance that we have there is just the distance of what, 1, and I'll click on 1, and I'll click on what, enter. Now that I have this here, I'll go ahead to escape. Are you guys with me? In fact, I'll go ahead to that same line command again. This side you can see what is happening here. I'll connect this line here so that you can see, so that you can understand what is happening. Now I want to go on the top view now. So I'll click on my F5 to switch as usual, and I'll go on the straight line at a distance of what? I'll go at the distance of which is the overall thickness of what we have there, which is 2. I'll go at the distance of what, 2, and I'll click on enter. While I have that 2, I'll go at the distance of what, 1.5 again. If you're familiar with that, 1.5, I'll click on enter, and then I'll close this end again. We all know what's the distance here, which is what, 2, right? I'll go ahead to leave that. Now that I have this here, right, I'll start my line command one more time again. I want to give you the overview before I connect that end. So I'll start from here this time, and I'm going again. I'll click on F5 to draw from the right side now. Now on my right side, I'll go at the distance of, the overall width of that design, which is what, 2, what we entered earlier. So I'll come back down to the distance of 1, remember, and I'll close it back down from this edge at the distance of what, 2 again, which is exactly what we have here. You're already familiar, you know what's about to happen, right? Select my line. I'll go ahead and just connect from using my object snap. You need to have endpoint on here for it to work. How can you get your object snap on? Just have endpoint on here, then you are good to go. So I'll move to this point. I'll just click once, I'll escape, repeat my line command again, come back to this edge and connect what here. Very, very easy. You can see by default we already have this, our shape recreated on the side. But we are not done yet. I'm talking about this. You can look at what we have. Now we are not done yet. We're just getting started, guys. So how do we place our circle? That circle that we have showing like an illusion that shows like a cut, that is like a cut through, right? How do we create that? One thing that will help us to create that is this guide that we have here. There's a guide, a construction line showing us that there's a center point of radius of what, 0.5 created at the center. A line tracking from this edge to this edge. Can you see that? How do we get that in our AutoCAD? All we have to do is we need to make sure that our endpoint is on first, and then we go ahead to use our get our circle. Now if you try to recreate a circle center radius here, it will give you a lot of problem, because on isometric view, circle won't give you what we are looking for, right? Circle would not give you what we are looking for. Are you guys with me? Circle wouldn't align with the perspective. I'll try it out for you, because again, if you don't make a mistake, you don't know what is happening. So I'll connect it. Can you see, using my object snap tracking, if you are not seeing this line, there's something off on your line. Apart from having object snap of what, endpoint on, you need to have something known as what, object snap tracking. And if you can't see all these things on the list, like this dynamic thing that I turned on, or this auto mode that I turned on, or this object snap tracking that I turned on, if you cannot find it on this list here, use this do not icon here. I call it do not icon. Is a customized icon. You find everything on this list, because everything that I checked here, they are the one currently being displayed on our status bar. Now go back to this design. I'll use my same circle center radius. I'll be giving radius of 0.5. Try to do that using this. You see that we have an error. I'll track from here and I'll track from here. Whenever they meet, that's where I want to put my circle, right? In fact, you can even place your arrow very well. Click on F5, for example. Now it is aligning with the side, but we are using center radius. Can you see that? Look at the kind of circle it's given to me. It is not aligning. It's not placing on that side of the design. Basically, I'll go ahead to put the circle of what. Let me do it so that you can see the final result and know that we have done something wrong. This is what we want. No. On isometric design, the kind of what we use for our circle, it is not our normal circle here. We use what we call ellipse. Ellipse is the perfect circle for isometric design, and we don't use any type of ellipse. We use iso circle. And how do we get iso circle? When you go to axis end type of circle, you see on the list here, you can see arc, you see center, you see iso circle. So I'll right click on the list and select what? Iso circle, or you can just go down here and click on iso circle. Anyone works. So I'll go ahead to track from here using my object snap one more time, and I'll go back here and then look at it. When I click and create, can you see, tada, this is exactly what we are looking for, right? Remember what the radius is again. I'll go to 1.5 array. I'll go to 0.5 because 0.5 is what we have. Then I'll click, and you can see that we have that circle correctly placed. Are you guys with me? Alright, that's basically how these things work. So I'll go ahead to bring this isometric design directly to your face. So this is how we create it. This is how these designs are done. And isometric design are complex sometimes. They are not just as simple as this design, but because you know now the way teachers work in classes, we do the simple examples and then we give you complex one for you to practice with, right? So let's do some other designs, because I have some other simple designs around here.